Okay, so what I wanted to do was, instead of struggling around setting up appointments or sort of slowing the process of creative thought based on when we can meet, I thought I would just explain my idea here and post it on YouTube, so you can sort of break it down during your own time. So the idea that I was going to talk to you about when we are going to meet in the future is this. I also want to talk about how this relates to the people watching class that I emailed you guys about a couple weeks ago, or last week. Okay, so the idea is that we have this issue within the department where we have a sort of a disconnected student base. The students from whom I've experienced, so granted that's not all of them, but there seems to be this sort of vibe within the department that there's no real way to connect with our professors. We still are struggling. I've been here. I'm trying to sort of find where that threshold is. The other problem is we're kind of competing with other bigger departments, so our enrollment growth isn't as great as I think it could be. And we also don't have any money to do any new research. There's not a lot of options for students, undergrad students like myself, to get into positions with professors to not even do research that we're interested in, but even just research in general, right? There's not a lot of opportunities for that. And since the threshold to sort of really connect with the professor seems high, I'm not sure. It's hard to set anything up, but it's easy to talk. So I think that we're kind of there, but we're not all the way there yet. So with these issues, it's really hard to engage the two groups, the professors, faculty base, and then the undergrad student base. Obviously, the grad students are way more connected, but the undergrads, there's a lot of us that are interested in doing other things. So what I'm proposing is that we utilize the independent study format and the openness of that, and the ability to sort of design a class with your professor, sort of get a personal, custom sort of class. I guess that's sort of the idea of what independent study is. We utilize that with to design a sort of a seminar size. So you would design with over the summer maybe 4 or 5 options of just small model classes that you wouldn't normally want to teach to a 60-person class or a 100-person class, because it would just be too much work. But if it was in a seminar, 3 to 7 people, you could definitely be way more intense with the content, and you could sort of do different sort of activities and tasks because you'd have a smaller number of people that you have to organize. And you could get a lot more complex. And the discussions are easier, all of these benefits, right? So basically you design these 4 options per professor, whoever professors wanted to participate. Then, this is in addition to just normal independent studies, but if students found this topic to be interesting, which the topics would range from, what's interesting or popular at that time, or topics that the professors are interested in, but don't have any money for research. So the beautiful thing about this is the money for the class is funded by the student because it's an independent study. So you don't have to worry about tracking down research funds. You can sort of, the class is sort of the research. You can sort of test out what the engagements would be with students while also teaching a topic that they're interested in. So the way it would work is you would design this class. The students would agree if they wanted to be in that based on sort of this description of these off the books independent study options, right? you don't have to really register it because they're just sort of notes or class designs that the professors have. And if a student agrees and likes that, depending upon the number of students that is your ideal number, let's say that's 5, and you have a max of like 7 people that could sign up. Everybody signs up for an independent study that's custom for them, but you have them meet in the same classroom at the same time. So you're providing them still an individual experience per the rules of independent study, hypothetically the way that I'm sort of addressing it. I could be completely wrong and this whole video could be mixed, but under those circumstances it's still individual classes. It's just you're bringing all of those individual classes together at one time and you're teaching to one. So you could take on 5 independent study students each semester, and it would really be like only teaching 1 additional class instead of 5 additional classes. So it would be way easier for professors to sort of take on engaging, 20 or 30 more students. If you were to teach, one professor teaches, 4 professors teach 1 independent study, sort of custom design, right? You've just created more from less, and I think that right now in the department we have less, and we really need to start creating more so that eventually we can invest back in ourselves. So that speaks to the people watching class that I had introduced via the email last week. And basically what this class is this is sort of an idea of the type of class that the professor could organize, that the students would participate in. But I had pitched it as a class that I wanted to teach because I'm interested in sort of class designs and how this engagement works and sort of the networks of people we can engage. So for me it's sort of an experience, but it's also providing an example to the department of a class that could be taught. So we wouldn't have a student cap on this. It would be open students, because I would be sort of the head of it rather than a professor. I would step into that role. So hopefully I would still be able to work. The only way that this would work is if I could work with a professor as a mentor, so that they could help me along and sort of be there and sort of step in or give me tips of how you would teach this sort of topic if it was your class, and we can work together on that. And through the class, through the different things, through the different, it would be active learning. So I have a couple notes. So me as the teacher, or sort of the instructor of this people watching class, we would talk about the base sort of idea of what people watching is, sort of the first day, and then that weekend we would go out and there would be some assignment where you have to people watch in some location and record your notes. I would go to that location as well, even though as the teacher of that class. But I would go so that I could look for outliers in that environment, influential situations, so that I could take back to class for later use to match up with the experiences that the students have. So that would be sort of my engagement, and then the professor that's mentoring me, we can break down those observations that we make with the engagement in the class so that we can sort of feedback that back into the design for the independent studies, so you know sort of what works and what doesn't work. But also the students are getting sort of an enriching experience regarding a topic that we might not ever have the funding to design for a legitimate class, a legitimate for whatever. I think that this definitely breaks down some barriers with the status quo, gives us way more creativity with the sort of models and designs that we want to put together. It gives us creativity with the size of the smallness in the classes. We would never do that before. and it's fully funded by the students. And I think that pending any really stiff language on the independent study rules, from what I've read, I think this would be completely legitimate. So, if you do know rules that aren't, that you don't think that this would work, this completely shoots down the idea, let me know. I'd love to talk more about this if you find this to be interesting or something that you'd be maybe interested in pursuing. So, that's that. Thank you.